Hey, welcome to the Military Wallet YouTube and podcast. I'm joined today with by Jacob Mousseau. Jacob is a good friend of mine. We met last year during a Bush presidential leadership program. Got to know each other over the course of several months, spent some good time together. And Jacob has an interesting background and story, and he helps veterans with the military to civilian transition, job hunting, finding out what skills they have, where they want to go with their lives. And he does a great job with it. So, Jacob, why don't you introduce yourself, tell all of our audience a little bit about who you are, and go into your story. How did you get into what you do?
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Awesome opportunity to be here and to share a little bit of information and hopefully advice and support for those going through transition. But yeah, I'll kind of walk you through mine and it'll help allude to like where I'm at now today and what I do and why it matters. So 10-year Army veteran. I transitioned out of the military back in 2015. Had a rather unexpected transition from service. I know many out there probably would like to sign up for their little 4 year, then all of a sudden, oops, it's a career. And that was the idea. I mean, I was at right just shy of the 10-year mark, re-enlisted overseas while deployed. It was a really cool experience flying over Bagram in a Black Hawk. I mean, it was neat. Um, and yeah, I was promotable. Came back from deployment, bought my first house with my wife. Everything seemed to be going great till early 2015, where the DoD decided they just wanted to downsize the military. And the unit that I was in, 159 Aviation Brigade here at Fort Campbell, was selected for inactivation. So it kind of screwed up my plans as I reenlisted for stabilization. And apparently, the military had nowhere in the entire world they could send me. I still find that hard to believe today, but I've come to peace with it. But I ended up having a 6 month runway to transition out, figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. Um, not nearly enough time. I'll say that. Went through the transition classes and picked a career. I mean, I figured HR was a safe career. Every organization had HR. Figured how hard could it be? I led soldiers and did counselings and promotions. Like how hard could HR be? And to my surprise, civilian HR is significantly different than military HR. There's definitely more rules and policies and things that are frowned upon in the workplace that we do in the military. So learn that. But when I went down this career path with very little guidance, very little career exploration, and ended up going through this career for roughly 7 years, going from company to company, really just trying to figure out where I belonged after service. And I just truly realized that I just wasn't in the right path. And, it took a good friend of mine who is a career coach to sit me down and talk to me and ask me some tough questions and get me to like open my eyes to, oh my gosh, there's other things out there in the world that maybe my skill set would be better for. And kind of leads me to where I am today as a career coach and helping warriors transition from service. I kind of took the harder route and I got to learn some good experience along the way and make some really great connections who now can help me provide better support to those making that transition.
Yeah, I mean, your story is common, right? So, military downsizing happens whether you want it to or not. So, one of the things I talk to a lot of friends, we're all going to leave the military one day, whether it's on your terms or the government terms. We can't always decide that. So, we may have that plan to stick in for 4 and punch, go, get our GI Bill benefits, VA loan, whatever we're going to do. And then you hang around for one more enlistment or you PCS, you like it, you get married, you get kind of stuck there. Not stuck, but life happens and you like, okay, this is working, it's good. And then conversely, you may have that plan to do 20. And then Uncle Sam says, you know what, thank you for your service, but have a good career post military. And it could be for government's downsizing, could be for medical reasons, it could be for a host of different possibilities out there. So one thing we can all do is try planning. The day we get in, we know we're going to leave one day. So in the back of our minds, I guess we need to start planning a little bit. I struggled post military as well, just trying to figure out what is my niche. Uh, the whole going 100 miles an hour in the military, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's done. You hit the brakes, and you're like, okay, what do I do next? What are some of the challenges that you faced when you left the military? Obviously, you said it was 6 months and it wasn't enough time, but what was that transition like for you? And what are some of the commonalities that you see with veterans who are making that transition? And what are some of the things that you coach them to make that transition a little easier for them, whether it's career, finding their place, finding their passions, etc.?
Yeah, those are all very good questions. I'll try to take them one at a time. I might forget one, so you might have to jog my memory as we go. I would say one of the most common things that most warriors struggle with is they underestimate how hard transitioning from service is. And there's a lot of great people out there and a lot of great resources that, you know, have good intentions of helping, but sometimes they're giving the wrong advice, and they explain like how easy it might be, or how companies are veteran friendly, and like getting a job is not going to be that hard. And a lot of times this is advice coming from people who've not done it yet. So, in the military, we put a lot of trust into our leaders, and, they help groom us and grow our profession while we're serving. And we trust them, kind of like mom and dad. And, when we get out, we still go to them for advice. And unfortunately, since they've not done it yet, they're well intended, but they don't always give the best advice. So warriors definitely need to seek that advice from those who have already done it. So those who have had a successful transition, those in the space to help with transitioning out, the different nonprofits that are out there that help with this. I think that's probably the biggest thing, is just, where to get the advice and what advice to listen to is something that's important, because that determines the direction you go and how you handle transition. I'd say something that is important that I definitely try to drill into the warriors, depending on where they're at. It doesn't really matter if they're a year out, 2 years out, they've been out for 5 years. One of the biggest things that they need to narrow down is figuring out what they truly want to do. A lot of warriors get out and they're like, well, I'm a Swiss Army knife, jack of all trades. I could do HR, I could do operations, could do project management. And sure, we probably could do all those things. I mean, we had to do several different things in the military successfully, wear a bunch of different hats, and, you can adapt and do something like that. However, it makes it very hard when you do everything, when an employer is looking for a very specific person to come to their organization and solve a very specific problem. And in that case, you need to have a dialed in direction. And not only that, but it makes your transition easier when you are able to narrow down, hey, I want to do HR. I want to live in Nashville, Tennessee, and maybe these are some of the companies that I'm interested in. Well, if you've got that all dialed in, now you can easily connect with people that are in HR, who maybe work at these companies, who you can do informational interviews with and ask them for advice, learn about what their day to day is like, and like truly understand, is that in fact something that you would enjoy doing? Because I would challenge all the folks getting out, going to get their PMPs, who want to be a project manager, to chat with project managers and understand what their day to day is like. Because I'd say half of you probably would not want to do that job, and it's a common direction for most people getting out, for senior enlisted and officers, to, oh, I'm just going to go do project management, but they literally don't know what the scope is on a day to day, doing that job. And it varies from industry to industry. It might be very different in healthcare opposed to like manufacturing or something. So, you have to do the due diligence, put the work in, recon, get that intel, and then figure out what direction makes sense for you. I I think I answered those questions. I don't know. I might have
Oh,
left
yeah,
one or
no,
two.
I threw like 100 questions at you, so yeah, that's fair. But that is, that is a common thing that I see a lot of veterans doing, especially as they're or senior military members. They know they're getting out soon. I need to go get some certifications because I need it for the outside. You may not. And PMP is a common one. There are a lot of other certifications depending on your career field. So sometimes those are beneficial. Sometimes, okay, you just spent a lot of money or you use tuition assistance you could have used for something else. So definitely make sure you're not just chasing your tail or, going after certifications just to have that piece of paper if it's not going to benefit you. So when I made the transition, I struggled to kind of find my place. And you hit on that a little bit to say, you know, yes, many military members, we wear different hats, right? So we do a little project management, we do operations, we do a little bit of HR, but in the civilian sector, it's, as you said, much more specialized. What are some of the ways military members can say, you know what, I have worn all these hats. How can I narrow this down a little bit? Or you can also tie it's kind of a related question. How do we translate our military skills into a civilian sector? Because we've worn many hats and many of the jobs don't have that kind of one-to-one translation in the civilian world.
So you have to do this in order. You can't just jump into translating your skills or writing resumes, which most people do. They just start there, or they waste benefits that they're entitled to, like you mentioned, GI Bill or VRND, or they just like, I don't know what I want to do, so I'm just going to go to school. Don't do that. You have to know what you want to do before you waste those benefits going to school. Because I did this. I went and got my PHR through the O2O program. Then I went to school using my GI Bill to get HR experience. And ultimately, that was not the direction for me. That job, I'd say most of that job completely depleted my energy, burnt me out, was not for me. Like I was good at the job. And that's the confusing part. I excelled at the role. And I think most military, regardless of the role, will excel at the job, regardless, because they're like, I've done worse, embrace the suck, just drive on. And you get all these indicators showing, oh, you're good at this job, good evals, promotions, bonuses, but they're not the right indicators. So I'd say something that's important is you have to do self reflection. And whether that's reading, what is it, Paychecks to Purpose by Ken Coleman, or What Color's Your Parachute, or selfishly here, I've got a whole YouTube series on how to transition from service and like truly find career paths that align with you, your values, your family dynamic, geographic location, like all these things that you truly need to consider, because you could get into the right role, but it might be the wrong organization, and which might not have the right culture and tribe. Or maybe you just get into a job that depletes most of your energy because of the tasks and things that you actually do on a day-to-day basis. So like truly understanding you and what fuels you is critical to getting into the right career. And there's tons of like assessments out there that you can take to like kind of figure this out, but normally you got to like piece all this stuff together. So I can definitely talk to people that need the advice, but I mean, for real, like the biggest thing is just slowing down, reflecting on themselves, taking that time to understand like what drives them and what's important to them, because everything can't be important, because then nothing's important. So you have to truly understand, like, is it work life balance? Is it family? Is it location? Is it title, pay? I mean, like, what is it? You have to order these. They can't all be number one. So I think just slowing down is going to be the really important thing. And then when you have the direction, kind of like planning a vacation, I know this is the destination, then you can plan, where am I going to stay? What attractions am I going to do? Like all those other things, like translating your skills, that can come later. And there's a lot of tools that can help with that. But the best resource is talking to people in that specific career path, understanding the terminology that they use, reading, whether it's newsletters or just articles or whatever it might be, but just truly understanding like what terminology is used in that industry or those companies or that job space, and then trying to, write toward that. Cause like you could use AI, but most of the time you might not quite understand what it all is saying until you start talking to real people doing it.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair assessment. You know, AI is a great tool, but it's also one of those tools where if you're not asking the right questions or giving the right prompts, you're not going to get the right answers. Okay, so all this sounds good. Telling 26-year-old me to go read these books, I would probably read them. Intellectually, I can say, yes, I understand this concept, but do I know what I really want? And I can tell you that when I was 26, that's how old I was when I transitioned from active duty. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I didn't know to begin with, but I was also just completely burned out. I did 5 deployments. I did a 1-year special duty tour where I traveled the world the whole time, and this was in a span of 6 years. So I was completely frazzled, burnt out, had no direction. All I knew is I didn't want to continue at that pace. So that's when I, jumped out of the military. I was unemployed for 6 months. I didn't have much of a direction. The first time I went to a job fair, I was completely lost. Yes, I could have gone and talked to people, but they had a bunch of chairs set up and I thought they were going to do a presentation. So I sat down in a chair and I realized, oh, I guess I should be walking around and talking to people. So this is me, 26-year-old, didn't know what I didn't know, didn't have a clue. What do you tell to that young airman, soldier, seaman, Marine? Hey, you've got one term under your belt. How do you find that direction? What's your azimuth?
Obviously, I understand every person's situation is different. So, we can play this in many different ways, right? Sometimes maybe that airman made some bad decisions while they served and they've got some financial constraints tying them to a certain lifestyle that they need to live. But the ultimate goal is to get to somewhere where they can thrive. So and I think this scenario is really common for transitioning service members because we all get excited. This is our first career. We're making what we think's good money, and we might go get a car and have a 20% interest rate, and all these bells and whistles and subscriptions and all these things. And maybe we've got a couple wives, kids all over the place, child support. I mean, there's a lot of different things that occur. And sometimes you have to work within the limitations of what you have. So, and I think this is more common than it isn't, where sometimes you have to just transition out, get a career, stabilize financially, and then work toward the thing that you love. So, and obviously, you still have to do self reflection and figure out what it is. But I know that not everybody can just get out of the military and get that perfect job right out the gate and like live happily ever after. That's definitely not what I'm saying. So it would depend. Like I would have to sit down with the person, just kind of understand what the barriers are because there probably are some, and then figure out how to build a plan specific to them that works within the parameters that they have. But something that we talk about is just understanding, hey, what's important to you? Like, what do you value? Like in this next career, what do you envision? You know, you doing? Is it going after a title or salary? Is there a special place you want to live geographically? Do you want time off because you like picking up your kids from school? Like, what are those things? And like, as you start kind of learning the person and understanding what they value, then you can start going to like strengths and, what fills them up, what depletes them, and then start building a career around that based off their already established skill sets in their background from things that they did in the military. And then that can definitely highlight a path to go down that might make sense. They might not be able to go there right away, but we can build a plan to get there.
Yeah, no, I love that answer because that's what both of us did, right? We both transitioned out of the military. We both kicked it around for a while, got a job, realized maybe this isn't the long-term path for me. And, I'm sitting here now and in retrospect, it's easy to say, just give it some time. Go find that job. Go gain some experience. Because even if you're in the job that's not right for you in the long term, you're still going to take things away from it. You're going to take away some skills. You're going to build your network. You're going to know what's not the right path. My daughter is a junior in high school right now, and she's still trying to figure out, okay, what does college look like for her? She's definitely going to go. What does a major look like? What is her career path going to be? And, part of the advice I give her is exactly what you just said. Start. And if you find out you're going down this path and it's not exactly right for you, change directions. And maybe all you have to do is, change 15 degrees and now you're going, right? Maybe you do a 180 and go backwards. But the key is that you're making progress and you're learning about yourself and you're gaining skills along the way. So I think that really applies to all of us.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the career coaching you do. When do you get most people in their journey? Are they directly, hey, I'm leaving the military and I'm touching base with you 6 months out and I'm still in the military? Oh, I just got out of the military. I need to find a job, or I've been out for 2 or 3 years. Where are people in the process normally when they come to you, and when should they come to you?
These are perfect questions. Ideal scenario would be, 6 months to a year out, as far as like for me, because yes, I would love to have a conversation with you 2 or 3 years out. However, I can't just have you hang out with me for 3 years. Like I have to give you what you need and kind of let you go on your way and still be here for support, but kind of like dad pushing you on your bike, training wheels are off. I'm still here, but you kind of got to go. But so like I would prefer 6 months to a year out, because I'll do one-on-one coaching, whether it's biweekly or however often the person needs it until they get to where they're going. So that, it's definitely a lot of hands-on work together. I'd say the most common scenario is I'm working with a lot of veterans that have been out for 5, 10 years and they've been struggling for a while. And a lot of them may have picked up on healthy habits along the way to cope with, trauma or stress, whatever that might be. So I would say a lot of times we're working through lots of different things, not just figuring out your job, which is, I think it's good. I mean, you need to come get help if that's you, and not saying like it's harder. Like, yeah, you got some more things to work through, and it might be more challenging, but you need to raise your hand now and say, "I need help." Don't just stew on it. So I would say that's the most common scenario. But I mean, I also support military spouses, family caregivers, you know, everybody else that truly needs that support. But I'd say my favorite person, if I had to like, like, hey, you're my favorite kid, is the transitioning service member, just because they haven't done it yet. And I want to get ahead of the mistakes if possible, because a lot of the cascading effects, like substance abuse, divorce, suicide, homelessness, all those things generally occur because of a poor transition and not getting the job or bouncing around for like their life, and that causes conflict in the home and financial stress. And a lot of those things could be avoided if you have a better preparation for transition and you get down a better path ahead of time, before you're down there. Not saying if you're already down there, it's not too late. We have a lot of resources and I can definitely help you. But like if I had a preference, like I'd love to avoid that if possible.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's amazing how many of these things are tied together. People we often look at things in their own little bubble, right? It's, this is my job or this is my financial situation. But when you start looking at some of these, endemic issues that people have, whether it could be substance abuse or problems at home, a lot of them are tied to finances or career, or it could be trauma, as you mentioned earlier. So, kind of taking a holistic approach to a lot of these things can help us move forward in a beneficial way. So let's talk a little bit about when somebody comes to you. What are some of the processes you take them through? Obviously, you mentioned is kind of finding your why or your purpose or what kind of makes you tick. But can you walk us through a little bit of what to expect? Hey, I just got out of the service. I'm coming to you, Jacob, and I need some help. Can you tell me what I can expect when I come visit you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll certainly hop on a call and kind of dig deep into what your circumstance is. I'd say 9 out of 10 times the person that's coming to me is already struggling. Maybe they're in a job that they hate, or they just lost their job and they're unemployed, and now that's causing some friction because they're having some financial difficulty. So most common scenarios that where now I'm working with you. However, like, we need to get you employed, get finances flowing in, or get you into using VRND or GI Bill, some way to get money coming in so you're not bleeding out. And then we can continue working together to get into that next step, whatever that looks like for you. But, if you're just a fresh person coming to see me, I'll have you fill out an assessment. It'll ask you lots of questions and help me understand like what your current situation is, how I can best support you. We'll figure out the direction you want to go. I can help with building a networking plan, show you how to build LinkedIn, how to connect with strangers, what's the proper way to conduct an informational interview without, feeling like you're just taking. It's not transactional. You're building relationships with people. Then I'll build you like a 90-day plan. So you've got small accomplishable tasks each day to work on, kind of like homework, but it's your own plan. So, you can definitely curate it the way you want it, but it's something tangible that you can work off of. It blows my mind how many warriors get out of service. Everything that you did while you served had a plan. Like, you worked off a plan for everything you did, no matter what it was. And then you get out of the military and you just wing it. Like, there's no plan. You're just doom scrolling job boards, applying to jobs, tailoring resumes, and you haven't even figured out what you want to do. Like, a plan is important. So I help provide that to them so they've got something that they can actually check off. I did this Monday, I did this Tuesday, so you can actually see the progress, because it's kind of like going to the gym, especially in the economy that we're in, the job market we're in. It's hard and it takes a long time. And sometimes you're doing all the right things for a very long time and you're just not seeing results. You're not getting momentum. And it's kind of like the guy going to the gym trying to lose weight. You look in the mirror every day and you're just like, I don't see it, because you see yourself every day. So I'd say it's pretty relatable to that, where you have to have a plan. You have to have somebody in your corner who's either hyping you up or being that accountability partner to keep you on track. And I'd say that's more so of like my role in it all. I mean, anyone that's played sports, I'm the coach, you're the player. I'll give you advice. I'll tell you how to choke up on the bat, but I can't play the game for you. Like, I can't go in there and hit for you. And I'll give you all the tools that so you can be successful. But when it's game day, like, you're on the field and I'm cheering you on from the sideline.
Oh, I love that answer, and I like how you started actually with triage, right? So it's what is what is your assessment? Is there bleeding going on? If so, let's stop it. And I think sometimes we have these ideas for ourselves where, you know, based on my experience or skill set or XYZ, I need to be earning this amount and I need to have this type of title or job or status. And maybe that's your goal, or maybe that's what you want to do. But if you're in a situation where you're unemployed, or you're just not making enough, sometimes you have to take that intermediate step and get a job that's just going to help you get by until you can pull back, reassess, do the work like you're talking about, going to the gym, getting healthy again, right? Finding that job or building a new skill set so that you can better position yourself, especially in today's economy where so much is changing so fast. You actually mentioned AI a little bit earlier, and I know from our previous conversations offline that you do work extensively with AI to help build this. And I know, look, AI is not the panacea that's going to fix everybody's careers, but it is something that we do need to be aware of in this changing environment. What are some of the ways that you're using AI to help coach some of your clients or some of the people you work with? And what are some of the ways that people can use AI and some of the things they need to avoid?
Really good questions. And I love that you mentioned AI because, I've got a love hate relationship with it. On one hand, it's an incredible tool that you can use in your day to day life, regardless of the situation. But here today, we'll talk about job searching and, career exploration. So one of the main ways is, of course, I am just a coach. I transition out of the military. I don't know every industry that's out there, every job, what it's like doing every single job in the world, right? I know enough to be dangerous, but I'm not an expert. So a great way to use AI is when I have warriors take the assessment, give me their resume, I understand their background, I know what fills them up, drives them. I can use AI to help identify career paths that they'd be best fits for. And this is really eye opening because now I can give them, like, hey, here's a handful of different paths that you'd be a good fit for based on your background, based on your values, your family dynamic, your geographic location, like things that a normal like transition assessment wouldn't capture because it's just going, hey, what's your MLS? Here's some jobs. Like that doesn't capture the whole picture that a warrior needs. So that's what I focus on, making sure that it's a path individualized for them, their situation, and then AI helps guide that. And then once they help, like they've narrowed it down to the different paths, you can use AI to do the market research for your area. How many opportunities are there in this field? So, say, hey, I would like to live in either Texas, Tennessee, or Florida. I want to be a human resource manager. I want to be in manufacturing. So, you got those things identified. Well, which one of those states has the best opportunities for you? Because I will tell you, depending on what you're trying to do, where you're trying to live, because I had a warrior a couple weeks ago moving to the middle of nowhere, Montana, doesn't have a plan, but you have to identify like where the opportunity is. Because if there's only one job in the entire state, it's going to be hard to get that job. So you want to make sure that you understand the job markets based on where you're trying to live, what you're trying to accomplish. You can also use it for the research for what the different salary ranges are in those different areas to help you with negotiating salaries or understanding job offers. Helping prepare for interviews is probably the number one thing I use it for because you can drop in the person's background, the job, company, the area, and it will give you a full blown strategy. Hey, this is what's going on with this company in recent news. Here's some of the leaders. Here's star questions and answers based off your background that you can use to kind of help formulate how to do this. But so interview prep's by far a really good one. Yes, you can use it for resumes, but I caution you, you definitely, like Ryan, you mentioned this earlier, you get what you put in. So if you're just like, hey, tailor my resume, it might not be the greatest. You need to have some structure and understand what it's doing because a lot of times it'll inflate what you're doing. It might make things up, and when you're in that interview and that hiring manager is asking you a question about something that you didn't do, you're going to sit there and be like, oh God, I didn't know that was on the resume. So you just lost the job right there. I mean, you're done. So, like, there's a lot of powerful use cases for AI. But on the other hand, you don't want to do some of these things and you want to make sure that you are reviewing the output before you're sending it because you want to make sure that it's accurate.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. AI can be very powerful. I love how you mentioned using it for job interview situations. So I remember when I first started doing job interviews, I would go to Google. Now we're talking this is, almost 20 years ago now, but I would go to Google and I would research the company and find out, okay, what does this company do exactly? Who do they serve? What is their role in this area? And I would try to get as granular as I could because you need to be informed. Now you can obviously it's, some people use their AI agents or whatever similar to Google, right? But you can have a much more conversational approach with it when you're using AI and you can take it down a deep thread. Hey, what is company ABC? What do they focus on in this city? How are they, do they work with a defense contractor? What kind of big contracts do they have on the table? These kinds of things. So that's immensely powerful. And I wish that tool had been around 20 years ago when I was, doing my transition. The other thing I love is yes, you have that garbage in, garbage out. If you feed AI a bad prompt, you will get a bad result. The other thing is AI likes to please people, right? Most of them at the current time, and they try to make things sound better for you, or it tries to give you a more pleasing result. But it also will make things up. It hallucinates, if you will, and gives you answers that aren't always correct. So I wouldn't even go so far with the term of trust but verify. I would go with the term verify. Everything that it gives you, verify. Even if you're doing, you know, interview preparation, you're just doing background on a company, you can still go look up certain facts just to verify it. But it will act as a very fast way to do a lot of research and kind of fill in some of those blanks. So as we're getting into this interview process, what are some of the tips that you can give military members so they can kind of leverage their experience, but do so in a way that's going to highlight them as a more attractive member to an employer?
Well, this is really important because a lot of us get it wrong. We practice our elevator pitch and it is way off the mark. So let's just talk about the number one question you'll probably get, and it's the tell me about yourself question, which can be daunting and it's very open ended. And sometimes we're like, what do they really want to know? Do they want to know about what I did before school, before the military? Do I want to know about my family? Like, you got to figure out how to answer that question appropriately. So, the I'd say the best way, and this kind of can go into multiple questions that you're asked, but 90 seconds to 2 minutes is really the sweet zone for having your answers. So make sure that you are very concise with what you're saying and you're answering the question being asked. So you have to make sure you listen, you understand what's being asked of you, and you only answer that. Like, don't go off on all these tangents. Stories are good. Please try to formulate in a story if you can, because they're much more memorable than just a straight shot answer. But whenever you're answering questions, especially this tell me about yourself question, think about yourself as a product. I know it's weird. We're not doing anything illegal. You're not selling yourself, but think of yourself as a product. The employer is the person purchasing the product. Why do they want to buy you? So you need to explain how your background, your skill set, whatever it is about you is relevant to them, to that job that you're interviewing to. So, like, yes, quickly go over your background, maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds, not your entire background, just most recent, what you've been doing. And why is it relevant to them? Like, you have to make it make sense. You got to bridge that gap, kind of putting a puzzle together. Because you could tell them all about your background, but if you don't connect it to the job or that company to, like, hey, why does this matter to you? Well, you just missed a really good opportunity. And, you might not get that job because you didn't really clarify why it's important for them. So you want to make sure that you practice that, but also always ensure like you're connecting it to that opportunity, to that job. And that's for any question really, but most specifically the tell me about yourself question. Like, that is the most important question in the interview, sets the tone for the whole interview. And if you don't get that right, like the interview's done right there. Like they may finish the interview and ask you the questions, but you're going to be like everybody else right now on social media, just ghosted. You're not going to hear back.
I love that piece of advice. I know many military members, we don't do self promotion, right? Obviously, you're going to have people on every spectrum, but in general, it's the quiet professional who goes out there, does the job, doesn't expect the thank you, doesn't expect anything other than, hey, I know I did my job and I'm happy with that. So going into an interview and trying to toot your own horn is kind of foreign to many of us with the military background. So I love that you kind of tied that in and said, hey, use this as your opportunity, but within these parameters, tie it to this, make a story, but tie it to your role in this position, how you would fit. I love that. So, as we're going through this process, what are some of the other interview questions that tend to trip up a lot of people in the veteran or military community?
I'd say it's tough right now, but I mean, most of the interview questions that you're going to get, without being like specific questions, are going to be behavioral based and situational based. So these are the tell me about a time where blank you did whatever, or they might come up with a situation, and they'd be like, hey, walk me through what you would do. So there are a lot of cognitive thinking, like how you would behave and act in the workplace. So for the ones where it's tell me about a time where, this is a format that you want to use, a formula is SAR, there's also STAR, but I think SAR is just easier. You talk about the situation, 20, 30 seconds, kind of set the scene for what's about to happen. Action. This is the action that I specifically took. And then result. This is the results of what happened, So you need to make sure like all your answers are in that format. It's kind of like a short story, like, hey, we had this situation where, you know, somebody lost their NVGs out on the range and we had to figure out like where they were. So we had to get everybody accountable, had to force everyone back from where they were. And, we walked through the woods at midnight. Why is that relevant to this job? Well, the result is we got everyone together, we uncovered this, but in the job that you're maybe interviewing for, accountability is probably an important part of the role. So you find a way to tie it to why it's important to that job and accountability for whatever that role might be. Because you talking about some story walking in the woods might not resonate with the hiring manager. So you got to figure out like bring it back to what's important to that role. So you also got to understand what's important to that role before you start, building your stories and answering. But I'd say that that's a kind of a format and way to think about how to answer the question.
No, I love that. Yeah, situation, action, response, and yes, you have to think on your feet. You have to be quick, and you have to find a way to tie it back into how it's relevant to this career field. So let's talk about, okay, we've done our soul searching, if you will. We've done our resume. We've gotten through the interview process. Now it comes down to we're getting a job offer. What do you see right now? Obviously, this economy is what it is, but what are some of the things that you're seeing with things like salary and benefits, expectations versus reality? And what should we be aware of as we're making that transition going from the military into the civilian sector?
Oh, this is good. This is good, especially if you've never done this before. Like this is your first job out. Um, you know, important things that you need to do. And honestly, you should be doing this like way before you're at this stage of the process. But you should be doing some research on the company, that job function in the geographic location that you're going to be working or living, and figure out like what that salary data is because it's out there, it's on the internet. Like you can use any AI platform for deep research, Perplexity, Bureau of Labor Statistics, like the data is posted, Glassdoor. You need to do the research and figure that out. And you should probably do that before you even interview, to be honest. But perhaps you didn't. Now you're at the offer stage and this is how you want to handle it. So they extend a verbal offer. Maybe it's written. what you always want to do is let them know, like, hey, I am so excited. I'm thankful for this opportunity, and then stall. Ask them for, 24, 48 hours to discuss it with your family. If you don't have a family, just make it up. I got to talk to my family. Buy some time because you need to have a strategy for this. So you want to make sure that you buy the time, and then you've either done the research or now you're going to go do the research to understand, hey, is what they're offering you fair, for that area? Because you want to make sure that you're getting a fair offer. So you want to also understand what the total reward package is. So many people get stuck on salary and salary alone, and there's way more to a job offer than salary, because there's the benefits, which, hey, maybe most of us don't need, because maybe you're a retiree, you got TRICARE, you're 100% VA. Maybe it's not the most important to you, but if you got a family, it might be important. You also got time off. So whether that's PTO, whether it's accrued or front loaded, maybe you get sick time. What are the holidays like? Is it a hybrid work schedule? Can you work from home here and there? Is there a sign on bonus, or are there annual incentive bonuses based on performance? Like, there's other things that you want to factor into the offer than just what are you going to make every, first and 15th or whenever you get paid. So make sure that you're factoring all that in. So if they don't provide it to you, because let's be real, a lot of recruiters don't. They send you the offer, it's got the salary, and they just hope you say yes. So, ask for, hey, what's the total reward package, or what are the benefits? Ask those questions so you can make a good decision for yourself. But then, if you're working with a coach, like, I can help you with all those. I can explain, hey, this is what you should say. Here's the range that you should ask for. I probably wouldn't go beyond this, to be safe. But, if you're just doing it yourself, you can use AI for this. Just be cautious, because if you're doing, and this is for anything with AI, but if you're doing something in AI and you don't truly know what you're doing, you're not going to know if it's right or wrong. So, like, for me, I use AI a lot for career coaching, but I'm already experiencing career coaching. So, like, I already know offers. So, like, I can look at that and, like, ooh, that doesn't look right. Where you might not be able to do that. So be cautious doing that. Maybe test a couple different platforms and what you're saying. But you always want to make sure that you go back after that 24, 48-hour period. And if you do want to counter, make sure that you just have the script ready. Like, hey, based on my experience in, this market, from what I've researched and understand, this is where I think I would like to be. Can you come up to this? Or, I would like an extra week of PTO, or whatever it might be that you're wanting. But don't ask for like several things. Don't ask for way more than what the range is for that area. And I'd say most of the time, depending how you attack the situation, you're going to get that yes. It might not be exactly what you want, but I know from recruiting and hiring from when I was in HR, there's always room to get more, because as the recruiter, I'm trying to save the company money. I'm trying to save that hiring manager money. So my first offer is always going to be a good offer, but it's always going to be a little lower than what I'm budgeted for. So a lot of recruiters expect you to counter. So just keep that in mind. Like, I think there's always room to ask, even if it's like an extra $1,000 a year. Ask. I mean, it's not going to hurt you. I mean, I'd say 9 out of 10 times, you're still going to get that job. If you do something crazy in this process or ask for something way crazier, they might take that offer back. They might rescind it, but most of the time that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's great advice. So the other thing that I from my limited experience, so, I haven't had too many civilian jobs post-military, but it's better to get that raise or salary increase on the front end, because raises are typically very measured and slower to come once you're inside and once you've been hired, because different pots of money They have budgets, they have to allocate it across sometimes entire departments or sections. So, yeah, if you can get that salary boost when you're hired, that's always the best time to get it. It also increases your leverage if you go get hired elsewhere. And sometimes that's a whole nother topic that, but sometimes that's a good way to get a raise too. So I love all the advice and all the tips that you're giving us. So I want to kind of tie this back together. We've kind of taken this through the entire kind of career arc, if you will, for the job search. What are some actionable pieces of advice you would have for people now? And you can address this to maybe somebody who's still in, going to transition soon, or just has transitioned, or as you mentioned, some of these people who are coming to see you have been out for a while. So however you want to address that, just a couple pieces of actionable advice.
I'll specifically address the people who have financial stability. You have a job right now, whether it's the job you love or not, you have the best position possible because you have time to figure it out, time to plan, time to network. And that's critical for a successful transition, but also getting into the role that you want, not just, I'm just going to get into this and bounce around and figure it out. Like, take that time to do the self reflection work. Take the time to connect with as many people as you can, professionals in different industries, different jobs, especially if you're still just trying to figure out like what you want to do next, and ask them lots and lots of questions. And if you need help with questions, I can help you, but AI would be good with this too. Like, hey, I need questions for informational interviews to understand the scope of work and how this job might align with my background or however you want to do it. But collect as much intel as you possibly can before making that, strike on that target to make it reflect with you military folks. Like, you need the intel before you make that decision. So for those of you that have time, use it wisely. Don't just wing it. Like, have a plan. Make sure that you prepare. And if you get stuck, reach out to someone for help. I mean, there's so many people on LinkedIn that are willing to help you. There's a lot of nonprofits out there that have mentors for mentorship for as you transition out. But like, get help. Don't just do it by yourself. If you've never done a solo mission in your entire life, like, don't start now. Those of you that are struggling financially, maybe you're unemployed, maybe you're bleeding out money, take something. Like, I'd say one of the biggest barriers I see is pride and ego get in the way. And this is where families fall apart. This is where you end up homeless or worse. So go take that job. You need money coming in, and you can't just bleed out on the battlefield. Like, that job, that temp job, it's your tourniquet. Like, just go take it, figure out like how you can get to a better fighting position, and then move. But like, you can't just stay where you're at. It's not working. So for those of you that, are in that situation, like, get stability, get help, reach out, ask for help, and then we'll get you to a better position. But I see too many people that just lay down and die. Not like literally, but like they just stop, and then they just stay stuck. And like, there's hope for everybody out there if you're willing to put the work in. You don't have to stay stuck.
Oh, I appreciate that. Super wise words of advice. I know sometimes the best time to find a job is when you already have one, right? Because you don't have that pressure and you have that freedom to go out there and have a lot of discussions and you kind of add value in many different ways, especially if it's within your sector, your networking and doing a lot of that. But and as you mentioned, if you're struggling, turn off that tap, do what you can to stop that bleeding, get a job, start earning income, and then pull back and reassess. So I love that advice. You did mention that you have a YouTube channel, and I know you do a lot of work on LinkedIn as well. Where can listeners learn more about you, connect with you if you want to share your YouTube channel, your LinkedIn, all that stuff? We'd all appreciate it. I'm sure a lot of listeners would love to reach out to you as well.
Yeah. Well, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. I'd say that's where I hang. I don't have other social media. So LinkedIn's where I'm at. There's not many with my name. There's a few, but not many that look like me as well. So, LinkedIn, I've got 2 newsletters on LinkedIn where I'm always publishing transition advice, job search advice. So if you're not like ready, you're not bought in, like, I don't know if I want to work with a coach, don't just stalk me. Read the comments, read the post, take the info in. You don't have to talk to me if you don't want to. I got a YouTube channel. It's also just my name, but Frontline Career Strategy. So also you could search that too. But there's a lot of videos on there that kind of help walk you through this. And I'd say the most important one is the playlist that I just did. It's the way home. It's a 15 video series that literally takes you from step one all the way to I know exactly what I want to do, why I want to do it, and it relates to you. And it's all free. Like I'm not charging you. Like it's just free advice. If you want to just go do that, then do it. If you have questions along the way, reach out. Like ask me. I'm not gonna, be weird and not reply. Just reach out and ask me questions. Like I'll reply to them.
Awesome. Well, Jacob, it's so good to see you again. I know it's been a minute, but it's great to have this conversation. I'm glad we could record it so we can share this with the world. And hopefully, we're going to reach a few veterans who can learn a lot from this, do a deeper dive through your YouTube series, stalk you on LinkedIn, and just get some extra tips along the way. So again, Jacob Mousseau, thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. And again, good to see you. For everybody who's joining us, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time and thank you for your service.